Sure, I'm not completely naked, just naked enough. All right, ladies, gents, because there are some gents who have periods. Today we will be talking about why periods are so dreadful for some of us and what we can do about it. First of all, I made some points. I'm just gonna list them off. It's not gonna be too long. Just bear with me. Periods don't create pain, okay? They release it. I feel as though us believing that the pain that a period brings is the period's fault is the equivalent of somebody being blamed for pointing out a pre-existing issue as if they were the one creating the issue, you know? Yeah, your period is really just a slap in the face spiritually about the way you've been living, the energies you've been harboring in you, the shit you've been accepting, and your behavioral habits. What have they amounted to? What state of being have they left you in? And it's important for us to recognize that so we can break out of some of those habits and really just not be in so much fucking pain. Because you could sit here and complain about it, you know, like, oh, I cannot move, my cramps are so bad. Why? How often do you genuinely listen to your body? Or do you just wait till your body's screaming at you to be like, damn, something is wrong? Anyways, so our period is the shedding of our uterus lining, yes? It's our sacral chakra. Our sacral chakra deals with human sexuality, it deals with our ambition, it deals with our desires. And it is blocked, clogged, convoluted by a number of things. Like maybe you've been having some unhealthy sex with some people who have been releasing toxic energy of theirs into you, and you've been holding it in your womb, inside your vessel, until your period comes along and decides to release out. Maybe you have been partaking in some guilty pleasures of some other nature, like something that brings you pleasure. It may be eating a certain food that you don't feel like you deserve to eat. It may be anything that you just like. It's the mixture of guilt and pleasure together. For some reason you feel ashamed of wanting to feel pleasure as you do it, and as a consequence of that, it's creating this blockage inside of you. Yeah, as I'm talking about it, it's making me want to fart. Much so connected to your solar plexus in your stomach as well. So it's like your willpower, your actions, your sense of shame, your sense of integrity. How well have you been holding up with these things? How often have you been letting your integrity slide? How often have you been abusing your willpower? I just realized that wherever your problem area is, it could be your stomach, it could be your lower abdominal cramps, it could be your back. That's what you need to pay attention to. If it's your stomach, like you constantly have to take a shit, like what kind of shit have you been consuming? If it's your lower back, like your lower back is always popping, why have you been in survival mode? What are you afraid of? What fear has been instilled in you that you've been harboring? If you're just having the worst fucking lower abdominal cramps, like it feels like somebody's just, girl, you got some sexual trauma, you need to examine your trauma. You need to forgive not only the people involved, you need to forgive yourself. So I just had to add that in there real quick. Examining that sacral chakra. What have your sexual practice has been like? It's really largely about that. It's not only about sex, though. It's also the habits, the pleasure-based habits, your sense of ambition, like what you've been working towards, what you haven't been working towards, your karmic ties to people. What karmic cycles are you stuck in with other people, with your cat, with your work? How are these things taking a toll on you on the inside? You know, your period really just forces you to go inward. It's like we're in a society where it's very yang oriented. It's very, we have to do this, and that for the outside world, for the sake of our social status, for the sake of interacting with other people. But it comes to a point where you're forced to examine the yin, the feminine. What are you absorbing, not just what are you putting out? The period will definitely let you know what you've been absorbing. Another point I'd like to make is the fact that dreading your period is a result of indoctrinated self-hatred and disgust, and it is worsened by dread. The more you dread your period, the more dreadful it is going to be. I know a lot of bitches that willingly sit through painful situations, abusive relationships, shitty jobs they don't like, uncomfortable sex positions, but you want to act like you're just boo-hoo on the floor, weak to your knees when your period comes. What happened to all that strength you was exercising when you was putting up with the bullshit that's putting you in the position to be in this much pain now? Oh, okay. So keep that same energy. Just know, like, you are endowed with this menstrual cycle because you can handle it. Not only can you handle it, but you need to handle it routinely, regularly. Really, you shouldn't wait till your period to examine your sacral chakra. If you continuously cleanse and examine your sacral chakra, you're not going to be in the position that you are when you're debilitated having cramps. You could say, oh, I just naturally have bad cramps. That may be true to a small degree, but it definitely has a lot to do with your environment, your choices. And until you take agency over your body and recognize that, you're going to feel helpless, powerless, in pain, miserable. You're not going to feel empowered. You're not going to feel like you're cleansing yourself of things that are no longer serving you and putting yourself in a better place. You're not going to have the willingness to endure that pain that's necessary for the sake of getting that shit out of you. Let's talk about what a period is. So, you're shedding blood. You're shedding blood. Let's think about the spiritual implications of shedding blood. Something that's beyond your control that just happens to you regularly. Women of the world, trans men, the people with the womb. Those are the ones that shed blood, not just for themselves, but for the suffering, for the karma, for the trauma of their loved ones, of their ancestors. I know I sound kind of like I'm going on a deep tangent, but it really is that deep, especially when it comes to the sacral chakra. It is very, very deep. It's the definition of deep. And if you try to make it to be a surface level thing, an outer thing, you're screwing yourself. Because this is really the point in time where you need to look inward. Not just look at, oh, I'm bleeding, what's the surface level implications of it? No, go deep, figure out what cycles you've been stuck in and what led you to this point. It doesn't need to be painful. It's actually quite joyous to cleanse yourself of things that have just been sitting in you, making you sick for weeks. It's really not even just your choices. Like I said, say, okay, you make the choice. You make the choice to have sex with this man, and this man is releasing all his stress into you when you have sex with him. Well, guess what? He's projecting and injecting all of his trauma into you, and women are absorbing. The yin energy is to absorb. We absorb, we take in everything. The yang energy is to put out. So now that we've taken in all of this, It's sitting with us. It's sitting with us until our body releases it. And it's necessary. Affirm to yourself, my body is a divine temple. I am a vessel of life, death, and rebirth. For me, having dark red liquids, cranberry juice, hibiscus tea, the works. These things are all very helpful. Some people like chamomile, some people like lavender, things that are very soothing. But it's really just not, it's not all topical. It's really a time where you need to inward reflect. And if you neglect that inward reflection every single time your period comes, guess what? That shit is going to carry over into the next period. It's just going to keep getting worse. Do you want it to get better or do you want it to get worse? Clearly, we're okay with a certain level of suffering, but that doesn't mean we have to consistently endure that suffering, consistently absorb that suffering. At a certain point, make decisions to break out of, to expand these cycles that you've been stuck in. Your period is directly correlative to the karmic cycles you've been stuck in. So if it's painful for you, and it always is to a certain extent, if it's cripplingly painful, genuinely take time to examine. If you have questions about your sacral chakra, what blockages you may be dealing with, how to address them, that's more individual. You can come to me, you can look things up, just take the initiative. Have the ambition to look inward, to figure it out, to make peace with your body, and to rid yourself of things that are no longer serving you. Don't just let it continually perpetuate in a cycle. So yeah, like I said, I'm not going to talk y'all's ear off, but I just feel like that needed to be said. And again, if you are dreading your period, it is because you have absorbed hatred for womanhood. And you need to let that shit go when your vagina is bleeding. Let that shit all drip out of you. Every ounce of hatred that has been projected into you, because there's no reason that you should hate yourself or something that naturally happens to you. It's for a reason. It's necessary, okay? Dread creates dread, creates dread, creates dread, creates dread. Kill it. Release. Peace.